This is not a fun conversation. It's not even a very comfortable conversation to have, because sometimes if we're in a toxic relationship, we can be in a toxic relationship with someone that we actually care about, with a friend of ours. I've had situations where I had a really good friendship with someone for years, and then it got really toxic towards the end. The way that I think about this is because sometimes it can be hard for me to say to someone that I care about that I think that our friendship or our relationship is feeling toxic. I focus on the behaviors more than I focus on the person. And so if I say this behavior is difficult for me to stay in this friendship, that's a lot easier for us to fix. That's something that we can work on. When you do this, it makes me feel uncomfortable, it makes me not want to be a part of this friendship, right? Versus you make me uncomfortable, you make me not want to be in this friendship. I can't change being me, but I can change a behavior that I'm doing. And so I want to introduce you all today to some behaviors that can create a toxic relationship, a toxic friendship. Before we do this, I want to remind you all that we are deep into our Feel Better, Do Better series. And by deep, I mean 6 episodes, which is a lot for me to do consistently. But the whole point of this channel is not to tell you what to do. It's just to offer strategies for you to try out and say, this is something that I think is important, or this is something that I want to get better at. This is something that matters to me, so I want to learn more about it. And friendship is a really huge one that young people have talked to me about. And so before we jump into this, just know that it's just an offer. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to watch the video, but if you do, I appreciate you, and I'm glad you're here. So anytime a young person says to me, how do I know if my friendship is toxic or not? I always focus on this question first. How does it feel being around that person? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about other people when you're around this person? How do you feel about the world when you're around this person? And some of the answers that I've gotten are, I feel anxious, I feel self-conscious, I feel negative, I feel drained, I feel bad about myself, and I've even heard that I feel controlled. If you have negative feelings when you're around someone that you're supposed to care about or care about you, then something is going wrong. There's some sort of toxic thing happening, whether it's something that you're doing or they're doing. It's a conversation that needs to be had. I want to list 5 behaviors that can create a toxic feeling in a relationship. I just want to be realistic with you, because I think sometimes we like to pretend that we're living in this ideal world when in reality, things are very different. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's scary to be alone. Sometimes we are willing to let people treat us less than we are, because we'd rather have them around doing that than have no one at all. And I know that that is a tough feeling to deal with. I want you to be able to be with yourself, feel good to be with yourself, but I also know that connection in community is important. It doesn't mean that these behaviors won't show up in good relationships, but if you have a relationship where someone is constantly making you feel bad about yourself, or feel drained, or feel negative about your life and the world, then you have to take care of your relationship with yourself. And I would much rather you struggle alone and figure out who you are, figure out how to have a better relationship with yourself, than stay with someone who's going to be harming your relationship with yourself. If you have a negative friend, if you have a toxic friend or a person that's doing a lot of toxic things to you, that is harming your relationship with yourself. Even after that friend, let's say you're friends with this person for 3 years, 3 years later, right? The harm that they caused you can cause you to cause more harm to yourself. If my friend is constantly making me question the way I talk, or the way I dress, or the jokes I make, right? Every time I make a joke, they're gonna shoot me down or make me feel bad about myself. Even years later, I can still struggle with feeling like I'm not enough. I'm not gonna make a joke, because that voice that they put in my head is still there even after they're gone. So it may feel scary to leave a toxic relationship, but think about the relationship that is with you always, and that is you. Said a lot. It's just important, right? Because I don't want you all to say, oh, my friend did this one thing toxic one time, they're dead to me. Look, some of the closest people in my life, our relationships got so much stronger when we addressed toxic behavior that they were doing, toxic behavior that I was doing. We were able to build a stronger understanding. We were able to forgive each other. We were able to build deeper respect for each other because we understood each other more. And so I'm not saying that just because someone is doing these things doesn't mean that they're not worth it. That's a decision for you to make. If you think this relationship is worth it, addressing these behaviors can be helpful to change. But if they're refusing to address these behaviors, I beg of you to think of your relationship with yourself, to think of the harm that staying in this relationship can do. Let's jump into it. Number one is one of the most common things that I hear from middle school students, middle school age specifically, is that their friends treat them like a punching bag. And this can be like they're super tough on me, or it can be like they are always making me the butt of the joke. It's cool to be able to joke with your friends. I love to give my friends a hard time. They like to give me a hard time, right? But at the core of it, it comes from a place of care. If I have a friend in my life who is constantly punching down on me, or every time I say something, they're making me feel dumb or making me feel like I shouldn't speak, that's not coming from a place of care, right? Or someone that is consistently making jokes about me. They pull that whole "you're just being sensitive" thing. I'll be sensitive. I'll just be sensitive over there, away from you, right? It's sometimes we have to check ourselves and make sure that the humor that we're using is not actually causing harm, or to speak up to someone when they're making jokes that are hurting our feelings or taking things a little bit too far. Number two, it's a tough one because a lot of people do this. They make it all about them. Now, humans do that because sometimes we're trying to understand what someone else is going through or to show them that we're understanding. And so if they tell me a story about something they're going through, I'm like, yeah, I know that. I've been through that. I'll tell you about that. This is a little bit different, right? That's a behavior that we definitely want to be aware of, but this is a little bit different. This is the friend that no matter what is going on in your life, right, it always has to be about them. They can't even let you talk about yourself or ask for anything or say how you feel because of how it affects them, right? If you have someone that is only focused on themselves, you have to recognize they're not worried about you. They're not focused on you. They're seeing you as a side character in their life. You are the main character in your life. Everyone is the main character in their own life, but you shouldn't have to feel like a sidekick because someone wants everything to be about them and nothing to be about you. I want to build off that one with number three, because I also see this is they don't have empathy or even sympathy for when you're going through tough times. I had a friend who constantly asked me to talk about the tough things that they were going through. And as a friend, I said, yeah, I'm willing to do that. But after a year of sitting with them and listening to them talk about their struggles and empathizing with them and being there for them, I came to them with my own very similar things. And they were so unwilling to be helpful or to listen to me. And not only that, they gave me this judgmental face as if there was something wrong with me for feeling bad, which I held that space for them. I was there listening to them. I didn't judge them, but they did it to me. And I realized pretty quickly that that was a toxic behavior, and I don't care who you are. I don't let anyone do that to me. And so that friendship ended. All right, number four is they are constantly criticizing you. Now, look, accountability, which means that if my friend is doing something that's harming themselves or harming someone else, I want to help them by holding them accountable and calling that thing out, right? Giving people feedback if they're doing something that is maybe having a negative impact or they're not maybe as aware of what they're doing as they should have. It's okay to call your friends in, but this is, again, different. If your friend is constantly criticizing you, making you feel bad about the way you look, the way you talk, the way you act, who you are as a person, then what they're not doing is accepting you. And one of the most important things about a good friendship is that you accept each other. You don't have to accept toxic behaviors that are harming you or harming your friend. You can always call those things out. But if you are trying to change someone to be more what you want, then you don't really care about them. And if your friend is doing that to you, that is a toxic behavior and you should watch out for it. You can call it out, but if they're not open to receiving that, then that is a hint to you that maybe you should skedaddle. This last one, number five, might have mixed opinions on it, but I'm just going to share my opinion. This is my opinion. I did some research into this before I looked. This was something that came up, but I also have met people who don't agree with this. The last one is that someone who is consistently and constantly stuck in negativity. Now, supporting friends is important, and people go through tough times, right? You might go through a tough time for a while. I mean, I'm 3 years into a pretty rough depression, but what's important to think about is if someone is stuck in choosing to stay negative, to stay in that space where everything is bad, I'm complaining about everyone, I hate everything, right? Even if they're not being negative towards you, that is a toxic behavior that can have an impact on you and your friendship. I'm not saying to just leave that person, because a lot of times when we're suffering, we need our people around us. But if it is something that every time you talk to them, it is like the end of the world, or they're using you to just dump all this negative stuff on, you're going to leave feeling drained, and you might start to change how you view things, how you view the world. And so there's times where I've had to step away from relationships because the person was refusing to get help. The person refused to even think about being positive. They just wanted to complain and be negative about everything. That was different from this person was going through depression, and I know they were sad. This person just thrived off of complaining and being negative about things. I brought it to their attention, and they said that that's just how they are. That's their humor. And I said, cool, I don't want to be around that. It's not that I don't want to be around them. Again, it's the behavior, not the person. It's not that I don't want to be around them. I just don't want to be around that, because I tend to take negative stuff and run with it. Like, it's hard for me to stay positive. And so if I'm stuck with someone that's thriving off of negativity, everything is bad, everyone is awful, then that is going to have a negative impact on me. In my next episode, I'm going to be talking about how to have a conversation with a friend about toxic behaviors, because we can pay attention to these things. But if I run up on my friend and I'm like, you do this, you do this, you do this, you're toxic, I'm out of here, there's no chance for growth. There's no chance for us to become stronger as friends or people. This is a learning opportunity. And so we want to be really careful about how we have these conversations. So make sure that you come back, hang out with us, learn some more, and most importantly, feel better and do better. Until then, my friends, goodbye. Tschüss, auf Wiedersehen. That's German.